every villain has got to know that the one thing you do not do to a mother is kidnap their child. And Charles is about to find out that, well, he's made a bit of a mistake here. Hello, everybody. I am Rue, and this is my YouTube channel, Rue with the Books. I hope that you are having an absolutely fantastic day today. If you've been here before, welcome back. It's great to see a friendly face here again. And if you're new, then welcome for the first time. I'm absolutely stoked to have you here. I've had an absolutely fantastic spooky season this year. I've read some absolutely great horror books, gave them some good ratings. I wasn't disappointed by any of them. And it's proven to me that I am maybe a bit more of a horror fan than I had originally anticipated that I would be. That's the thing about reading. The more you explore various genres and read all these different books, the more you get to pinpoint your reading taste and find out what you like and what you dislike. On the back of my spooky season, I have done some research and compiled a list of 7 horror books with really interesting premises that I am excited to read. I don't plan on just cramming all of these into the next spooky season, because 7 books in a month is quite a lot. But I do plan to kind of sprinkle them in throughout the year on the lead up to spooky season. Obviously, so like January, February, March, whatever. I might read them whenever I feel like I need a little flavor of horror to spice up my reading. Before I get into the list, be sure to press that like button to show that you are absolutely fearless and will show these horror books who is boss. If you like Booktube and book content, you can go ahead and press that subscribe button as well down below. I upload at least twice a week, so you can know that I will consistently pump content right into your subscription feed. So, I hope that you like horror, because these are 7 horror books that should be on your radar. This isn't a ranking, so the first book I mentioned isn't necessarily going to be the one that I'm most or least excited, and the last book I mentioned is going to be the one that I'm most or least excited. These are just 7 books that all sound really interesting, and I hope to tell you a little bit about them. Be sure to grab a beverage. I have coffee here to stay nice and warm. Look, my hand is warming up just touching this nice, toasty, warm mug. Cold resistance is really important this time of year. I wouldn't want you to feel cold and start shivering when you've got a nice, cozy Rue with the Books video to enjoy. Now, without further ado, let's talk about those 7 books. First up, I have Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer. I'm going to read the Goodreads summary for this one first. That's not going to be a completely recurring thing that I do. I just sometimes feel like you kind of lose the essence of what makes something super exciting by paraphrasing, although sometimes paraphrasing also does do the trick. But for this book, precision is important, and I want to make sure that I am able to fully kind of show how exciting this book actually sounds. Area X has been cut off from the rest of the world for decades. Nature has reclaimed the last vestiges of human civilization. The first expedition returned with reports of a pristine, Edenic landscape. The second expedition ended in mass suicide. The third in a hail of gunfire as its members turned on one another. The members of the 11th expedition returned as shadows of their former selves, and within weeks, all had died of cancer. In Annihilation, the first volume of Jeff Vandermeer's Southern Reach trilogy, we will join the 12th expedition. The group is made up of 4 women, an anthropologist, a surveyor, a psychologist, the de facto leader, and our narrator, a biologist. Their mission is to map the terrain, record all observations of their surroundings and of one another, and, above all, avoid being contaminated by Area X itself. They arrive expecting the unexpected, and Area X delivers. But it's the surprises that came across the border with them and the secrets the expedition members are keeping from one another that change everything. Doesn't that sound so good? I haven't started reading this book yet, but I am already dying to uncover this mystery. This book / trilogy is really popular, not just on Booktube, but by people who know exactly what they are talking about. The people that give out awards. It's massively impressive that it promises so much in just 200 pages or so, and it clearly lives up to its promises because it's been awarded the Nebula and Shirley Jackson Awards, as well as being nominated for a whole host of others. It's not a terribly original elevator pitch, this kind of like barren, mysterious land, because we have stories such as The Last of Us, where land's starting to be reclaimed by nature, and Made in Abyss, where kind of the more you explore, the more dangerous things get. But it does sound like it incorporates a really, really gripping mystery and a wildly interesting set of characters to elevate this pitch up to unprecedented levels. What sounds really appealing about these characters is that they're all very educated people with interesting specializations. So I'm excited to see how they use these specializations in their work in Area X, and how these very different people with very different backgrounds get on with one another in such a stressful, almost like desperate situation. I want to know the secrets that each of them are hiding. I want to know if they are going to make it out alive. I want to know if they are going to accomplish their mission or just barely make it out alive, and what the consequences of their journey are going to be. What fascinates me is why all of these expeditions have ended so differently. I don't know whether it's supernatural or there's some scientific reasons, because obviously it was mentioned that one of the expeditions, all the members returned with cancer, or if the explanation is a blend of both. I already know I'm going to love this book, and the best part, it's part of a trilogy. So this series, once I begin it, is going to get its hooks right into me. I literally won't be able to stop thinking about it. Next up is Between Two Fires by Christopher Buehlman. This book has absolutely taken Booktube by storm. It released in 2012, but people are still reading it, still enjoying it, and still absolutely raving about how good this book is. So, of course, that has made me very interested in reading it myself. This book is historical fiction horror set during the Black Death of the 1300s, which wiped out between 1/3 and 1/2 of the British population. It is set in France, as opposed to Britain, which I just mentioned. It follows a disgraced knight, Thomas, who finds an orphan survivor of the plague who raves about the oncoming war on Earth between the angels of heaven and fallen angels of hell. She claims that she has been hearing the angels speak to her in her sleep, and she convinces Thomas to escort her to Avignon, where she's set to confront the evil that has devastated Earth. So here I'm really interested to kind of see what these visions that she's getting are, whether they're real or she's being lured to her death. And if she does find the solutions, how is she going to get the answers to solve, the problem of the plague, the Black Death? So it sounds like a really, really interesting, gripping mystery. Thomas is set to confront demons, saints, the risen dead in the midst of a struggle for nothing less than the soul of man. So hopefully that paraphrasing gives you the gist of what this book is about. What sounds really interesting to me, and what I like about the kind of like fantasy elements in a fantasy trope, is that kind of hero's journey. In this case, it seems like he's an exile, he's a disgraced knight, and this journey is a means for him to find redemption and confront the sins or things he's done in the past. One of the best ways to sell a horror book, I think, is either to introduce a great mystery that you just can't stop thinking about, or have an absolutely bleak and horrendous setting. This book definitely does both, and so it is just the best of both worlds. The name of the book, Between Two Fires, is certainly where the main character finds himself. Navigating a world in which the bubonic plague is still claiming victims and very much a threat, as well as the threat of the prophesized war between heaven and hell looms in the distance. It's very much a terrible, terrible predicament he finds himself in, and I'm just so excited to see how he navigates these issues. I'm very excited to find out how these two very separate problems are linked, and to find out whether this all ends in apocalypse or whether humanity can come over these transcendent beings and bounce back. I'm really interested to explore Thomas and this girl as our two main characters, to see what their dynamic ends up being like in such a terrible situation, and to see what desperation is driven to, how they have to deal with survival in such a bleak situation, and what their psyche is like amongst all of this. So yeah, just thinking about it, this book has so many elements that have piqued my curiosity, and all of them combined are really, really alluring. So I'm excited to find out what happens in Between Two Fires. Ray Bradbury is an absolute icon. Known mostly for Fahrenheit 451, which, as far as I'm aware, tackles censorship, a very powerful and important topic. Something Wicked This Way Comes is a very different story, of a completely different genre, but equally celebrated by horror fans for being a truly terrifying book, which inspires a horrible imagination for its readers. The Goodreads summary doesn't say much about the plot, so I'm going to have to pick up the bits and pieces here. I think it's one of those books in which you got to strap in and enjoy the ride, because you can't say much without giving a lot of stuff away. A lot of the enjoyment can be attributed to discovering things for yourself. It uses the stranger comes to town trope. Cougar and Dark's Pandemonium Dark Shows comes to Greentown in Illinois to destroy every life touched by its strange and terrible mystery. The show promises some very, very alluring rewards to its participants, and the two boys who are our main characters discover that the secrets of its smoke, mazes, and mirrors, who end up learning that sometimes, if it's too good to be true, it probably is, and now it's time to deal with the consequences. Gosh, paraphrasing that was hard. You can go ahead and read the Goodreads summary. Maybe it will do more for you than it did for me. I think I'm really drawn into circuses as a setting because of the mystique and the kind of bond that you get between the members of the circus troupe, the magic they inspire for their audiences. They can be used to mess with people that don't like clowns, but this book sounds like it takes it in a far more sinister and deadly direction. I first discovered my love for circus-based books, especially horror ones, when I read Darren Shan's Cirque du Freak as a child. All the various acts, how the characters ended up intertwined in a sinister plot, with Madame Octa, that damned spider. It just gripped me entirely. I hope that this book, Something Wicked This Way Comes, will inspire some similar emotions as Cirque du Freak did, and give me some nostalgia, and just give me a damn good story about circuses, and scare the absolute pants off of me. I'm excited to learn about all the secrets and uncover the mysteries of the Shadow Show. I have heard absolutely fantastic things about Interview with a Vampire by Anne Rice. I want to read this in the hope that it can restore my faith in vampires. This may be a very controversial opinion, especially in a video centered around horror books, but I really didn't like Dracula. It's one of my worst rated books ever. I actually did give it a 1 on Goodreads, I'm pretty sure. It started off strong, but the ambience didn't carry the book enough for me, and it ended up being absolutely farcical at times. And that's not, I wasn't expecting like a Monty Python sketch being, a horror book, so that dragged it down for me. Dracula wasn't front and center enough to the story for me to be really engaged and gripped. It ended up being more about these characters dealing with the situation, and it just was a bit of a joke at times, and I just wasn't scared. I was just like, I am so bored. So, once again, I hope that Interview with a Vampire will make me like vampire books again. What makes this book interesting and unique is that it seems like it's an autobiography from a vampire. Not literally, because Anne Rice is not a vampire, as far as I'm aware, but from the narrator of the book himself. It's another horror book where not that much is given away by the Goodreads summary. I'd say even less than for Something Wicked This Way Comes. It's a story of danger and flight, love and loss, suspense and resolution that is hypnotic and shocking, which I think are both good adjectives for a horror book. I'm interested in this book mainly because people have said it's really good. Based on the blurb, I probably wouldn't pick it up myself, but I am curious about what this vampire has got to say, because he wouldn't be doing an autobiography if what he had to confess wasn't interesting. And also, this book did come out quite a long time ago, so the fact that it's still got people talking about it, it's still in the kind of like the media presence, does kind of show me that it probably is worth giving a try. I guess Dracula also has been in that spotlight for a real long time too, and I didn't like it. But hey, I mean, if these books are popular, it's worth at least giving them a try and seeing whether you like them or not. I want to know how Anne Rice deals with people being kind of inducted into vampirism. I want to know whether he detests his condition or he's okay with it, because it is called, it kind of seems like a confessions kind of story, right? If he does, I want to know how his life went tumbling down, as it seems it has. I'm excited to discover a lot of shocking, grotesque things about this vampire. I am all for it. Considering my complaints with Dracula were that the villain wasn't front and center enough, and the fact that in this book the POV is from the vampire, it should hopefully really fix that issue for me. And so long as it's kind of like a really gripping character-based kind of story, which it sounds like it also should be, I think I should enjoy it. So for that reason, I'm really excited to get into this one. Next up, I have Pen Pal by Dathan Auerbach. I'm sorry if I said that wrong. I found this book on a thread a while back when I was satiating my curiosity about the horror genre and was looking for the scariest books ever written. I know, I'm quite a thrill seeker. I think this is another one of those books where I don't want to paraphrase, so let me read the Goodreads blurb. Pen Pal began as a series of short and interconnected stories posted on an online horror forum. Before long, it was adapted into illustrations, audio recordings, and short films. And that was before it was revised and expanded into a novel. How much do you remember about your childhood? In Pen Pal, a man investigates the seemingly unrelated, bizarre, tragic, and horrific occurrences of his childhood in an attempt to finally understand them. Beginning with only fragments of his earliest years, you'll follow the narrator as he discovers that those strange and horrible events are actually part of a single terrifying story that has shaped the entirety of his life and the lives of those around him. If you've ever stayed in the woods just a little long after dark, if you've ever had the feeling that somebody or something was trying to hurt you, if you remember the first friend you ever made and how strong that bond was, then Pen Pal is a story that you won't soon forget, despite how hard you might try. Let's start with the first paragraph. The story began as a series of creepypastas published by the author on the No Sleep subreddit in 2011. This element of the story makes it incredibly unique because you don't tend to see creepypastas from that era be so intricate, complex, and successful that they end up being like a whole entire book by the end of the writing process. It's a story that must have been revealed over a long length of time as the author continued to be inspired and write out this mystery, and was seeing interest and success from participants of this subreddit. Moving on, this sounds like an incredibly unsettling story that makes you compulsively feel like you have to look over your shoulder. That is such a horrible feeling, but horror fans love that thrill and continue looking for stories that inspire that compulsion. I love the premise of a person looking back on various moments of their life and starting to understand that something isn't quite right. Looking back on things with a different perspective in hindsight, discovering that you never knew so many moments of your life are actually a trail of terrifying, sinister crumbs littered on the floor. I'm very excited to be given a fresh perspective on how these seemingly mundane, boring moments of someone's life are actually way more than they originally seem. What a refreshing premise for a book. I can hardly wait to get stuck into this one. This is another one of those books that have been sitting on my TBR maybe a bit too long. I got through Fever House, so maybe this is the start of some change. Those old horror books getting dusty can finally enjoy being read. In this book, the Ku Klux Klan are swelling in their ranks during an epidemic in which people are indoctrinated into the terrifying ideas of white supremacy. It sounds like the Klan have some kind of plot they are working towards to bring hell to Earth. I don't know if in this story the Klansmen are considered to be demons because they are so vile, or if they have contracted the devil himself to literally become demons, or something along those lines. I bring that up because it does become relevant in the next section. This book follows Maurice Boudreau and her fellow resistance fighters who are taking as their mission to stab, shoot, and blow up the Klan's demons and send them straight to hell. It's not a terribly unique premise because films like Inglourious Bastards by Tarantino and The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare already exist with the Nazis as the villains. This book does do something fresh by tackling the ideas of racism and racial injustice by having the Ku Klux Klan as the center kind of villains in the story. This fight is just the start, as it seems something terrible is brewing in their town, and the war on hell is about to heat up. Can Maurice stop the Klan before it ends the world? This book sounds really interesting. It sounds like it heavily tackles the ideas of racism and fighting for change and liberation, while sprinkling into the plot elements of fantasy to keep it gripping and engaging. I'm excited to find out how the demons play into it, see what they can do, and what our central cast are ready to do to combat them. Like Between Two Fires, it seems like it blends elements of historical fiction with horror and fantasy to create a wonderfully fresh story. Except this one is centered around a very important theme that is still relevant today. It sounds like it explores extremism and hopefully provides allegories as to what we can do as humanity to combat these things. This kind of like historical horror thing is actually a bit underutilized because we can really look back on history and see all of the terrifying, traumatic things that have happened to people. And I think, whose bloody idea was it to do these things? I kind of think there's a bit of a market to bring more of these kinds of books that are like historical horror, because obviously Between Two Fires has done really well. So it seems like if people really think about it and develop a good story centered around those kinds of genre combinations, they can do really well. So I'm wondering if we're going to get any more. This book sounds like it's going to be electric, action-packed, and also give me all the character work I want with these resistance fighters because they sound very different to one another. I'm very excited to see what's up with this one. I've made it all the way to the final book in this video that I want to talk about, the 7th horror book that I am really excited to read. I haven't talked about Stephen King or Joe Hill in this book, so let me fix that and say that the next book is Nos for A2 by Joe Hill. I was just staring at the title and I was thinking, why is it those specific combinations of letters and numbers? Why is it NOS 4A2? Well, if you say it fast enough, NOS 4A2, it sounds like Nosferatu. Did you know that? This book follows several characters, and so if you like multi POV kinds of books, then that's what you get in this one. So let's dig into what the blurb says about each of the kind of central characters and then go from there. First of all, we have Victoria McQueen, who has a hidden talent for finding things. Think objects like misplaced bracelets or missing photographs. She uses a special bridge somewhere in the world to be able to go to anywhere she needs, and that is the basis of her special ability. That sounds really interesting because it's kind of like almost like a portal that can take her to all these places in the world that are like really far apart. Just kind of walking through a portal and kind of thinking where her destination is. And I'm kind of interested in seeing how she uses that power. Second of all, we have Charles Talent Manx, seemingly the villain of the story. He tends to lure children in his 1938 Rolls Royce and take them to like an alternate dimension called Christmasland, which is an amusement park of untold horrors. And I think that's really interesting because it plays on the ideas of Christmas, and I'm really excited to understand these kind of creative and novel ways that Joe Hill makes Christmas scary rather than joyous and something that most of us really look forward to. Victoria McQueen is the only person to have ever escaped Charles Talent Manx and his portal dimension Christmasland, and she wants to forget everything about it. But Charles has an obsession with her and he cannot forget. Their journeys are set to re-intertwine as he picks up his new passenger, Victoria's own son. This story sounds mega interesting. I really want to know about Victoria and Charles's characters, see how their paths intertwined, learn about the horrors of Christmasland, find out how she got away, and see their horrific reunion. Every villain has got to know that the one thing you do not do to a mother is kidnap their child. And Charles is about to find out that, well, he's made a bit of a mistake here. This book is a bit of a chonker at almost 700 pages, but this book does have a lot of ground to cover, seemingly stretching over quite a long period of time since it follows Victoria from childhood into adulthood and even into being a parent. It seems like each page is going to keep me captivated and drawn in to the story. Hopefully there will not be a single dull moment throughout. Considering the hype that Joe Hill has generated for a while now, this is sure to be an absolutely fantastic novel. Thank you for watching this video. If you have made it this far, I hope somebody buys you flowers today. Hopefully, with this video, you discovered some interesting horror books to read. I did pick out some titans from the genre because I need to explore horror a bit more. I'm still a massive noob to these types of stories. So perhaps you didn't, but thanks for watching either way if you already know all these. I think Ring Shout is one of the lesser known books in this video. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to press that subscribe button. I make sure to stay consistent and upload at least twice every week, so I'd love to hang around in your subscription feed and send more content your way. Who knows, maybe there will be some more interesting horror coming your way sooner than you think. If you have read any of these books, did you enjoy them and do you think that they are worth my time? If you haven't heard of any of these books, have I convinced you that they are worth a try? And I would also love to hear what you're currently reading, so be sure to chuck that down in the comment section below as well. I do respond to all my comments, so I'd love to have a chat. I'm still trying to figure out how to do the stuffs with the other socials, but they do exist. So if you would like to connect with me elsewhere outside of YouTube, then you can go check out my TikTok, my Instagram, and my Goodreads. Links to all of those are in the description below. And anyway, until next time, Rue, out.